Hello, listeners. Welcome to Freelance Friday with Casey, a podcast all about freelancing through the opinions and experience of a current full-time freelancer. And today's episode is one from a series of interviews with members from Weld. Weld is a collaborative workspace. They have a location in Nashville, and there used to be a location in Dallas where I was a member at for 4 years, and really helped me get my freelance business going and kind of get into that world. During my time there, I learned a lot, and I made a lot of great relationships with some incredible creatives in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. And so I decided to reach out to a few of them to see if they would be interested in doing interviews, and graciously and gratefully they accepted. And so these few episodes are going to be those interviews with them. And so today's interview is with Elisa Fisher. She is somebody that I've seen over the last several years that has been so driven and just focused on the pursuit of a freelance career in photography. Whenever I feel like a lot of people would give up, would have a hard time, realize that it's a bit harder than they realized, and bounce. She is stuck with it, and I've just seen her be on the grind and doing everything that she can to learn. And so being newer in her first few years of freelance still, I thought it would be really great to bring her on to talk to her, to see from somebody that is newer and kind of fresh what their perspective is on things and the things that they've been able to learn, because she's really smart and I think she's got a lot of great insights. And I'm excited for you to hear our conversation today. Welcome to the show.
Thanks
for coming on, Lisa. As you've heard, Elisa is another former Weld member. Also worked there for a while with as was a community manager. So we've known each other for a few years. And Elisa. Wow, sorry.
Uh-oh. How well do we know each other?
Well, here's the thing. There's another friend of mine named Elisa, and her name is spelled the same as yours.
Oh.
And so there's always this like thing in my head that I have to and rethink about it. So I'm not totally crazy, just mostly.
Just mostly.
Yeah, but yeah, thanks for coming on. I'm excited to talk to you today about your journey as a freelancer. You've been doing it for about 2 years now, right?
Full time about a year and a half. Yeah.
Okay. What can you just like tell me about that process a little bit, as far as like how you got into it, and I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll start there.
Yeah, so I did study photography in college. I got my BFA in studio art with a photography emphasis. And so I guess I felt like, things would come easily to me once I got out into the real world. But definitely once I got there, didn't know what I was doing. And it took me a while to kind of figure out how to kind of start in the photography world. And I found that it's really all about who you know and making those important connections. And I started out at Weld, which maybe your listeners know is a co-working space for creatives and photo studio. So I interned there, and that's really where I found this creative community in Dallas that I'd been looking for, and everyone was so just encouraging and willing to give their time and teach me things, and so I just kind of started assisting from there, and doing shoots here and then too, and just slowly building up my my network and my clients, and just I'm always saying yes to pretty much everything, because I am still kind of new in the game, and it's just cool how connections can come from just the most unexpected places, and so I was working at Weld as the community manager, and kind of freelancing when I could on the side. And I finally kind of got to a point to where, I first of all saved up some money, super important when you're, taking the plunge into freelance. And you just felt like, I was starting to get enough jobs in photography where I could support myself, and um, yeah, so that's kind of how I got there.
Okay. So with the school stuff, the education, do you feel like you were very well like what was the focus there? Were you getting more of the education as far as a side of like photography and how to shoot and do stuff, or was it like the business side of things and how to handle that stuff, or was it like a mix? Like,
Yeah. So what I did, studio art it was very conceptual. Um, and we we did learn some, film photography processes and history of photography, and I did learn how to, edit in Lightroom, Photoshop, how to use my camera correctly. So those are definitely super important, the technical knowledge. And I think like the fine art kind of training, has given me a unique vision and like an eye for things. And I'm super thankful for that. Um, but we didn't have to take any business classes or any marketing classes, and I definitely felt well, very lost in those departments when I graduated. And I've talked a lot with my fellow art major graduates about that. How just if you go to school for engineering, you're like pretty much guaranteed to get a job in engineering afterwards. And if you study, like most things that you study in college, will equip you to get a job in that field. But I feel like with art, it's like, well, good luck out there. Like, try your best. Um, and
yeah,
I actually emailed the head of the art department at my school, just very respectfully told him, I loved my time there, but I think it's really important for future graduates to have some business knowledge and marketing, and he said that they've started to implement that, which is awesome. And I think times have changed just in terms of how many people are freelance now. Um, so yeah.
okay. Do you, having gone through school, looking back now with your time there and the experience and everything, would you do that again, or would you opt to go a different route?
I don't think it's necessary to be a successful photographer with and having to get an education in that way, because there are so many resources online now and so many people doing workshops and that kind of thing. University has just become so expensive, that debt can be such a burden. And you do have to be really self motivated. If you're not going to go to school and you want to teach yourself everything, you have to really like be really strict and disciplined with yourself. And so, I think school is a great way of like, just keeping you on track with learning things and keeping your mind sharp.
Yeah.
Um, and I've only have experience at one school. There might be others that will prepare you better than mine did.
What I mean, are you type? Because I know there's different types of people where some people learn better from that kind of a class environment or having that structure, whereas others are better suited outside of it to be able to be like more self motivated and I mean, you find yourself kind of falling on one side of that fence or the other a little bit more.
Um, I think to be freelance, you have to be self motivated in a big way, and so, um, and obviously to study in school, you have to as well. But yeah, I would say I am. I grew up taking piano lessons, classically trained in piano, and I think that really teach me a lot of like discipline, like practicing every day and stuff like that. Um, but I also do like routine and structure, and that's probably been a struggle in freelance. Like how it's kind of awesome how and exciting how every day is different, but it's also a struggle with that lack of routine and structure.
Yeah. I some of you may have heard the episode I did with Wade Griffith, where we sat at an interview with him, who was also a Weld member, and Elisa has been working for him for a couple of years now. Or I guess it's been
About a
about a
year.
year, a little over a year, something like that. Doing some assisting and different stuff. What has that done for you as far as like your learning process and your business? Whether it's like networking connection to people that you've met or just seeing like business practices, and what's been that kind of, I guess, value that you've taken away from that?
Yeah, it's been awesome working for him. He's one of the most organized freelancers that I've ever met, and so he has a lot of really great systems in place in terms of how he just runs his business in the back end, how he invoices and creates estimates, and how he does his marketing with social media. And so, there's not one right way to do things in this industry, but I definitely think he has some really great processes that I've adopted since working for him. And yeah, he's just a super professional in what he does and how he treats his clients and how he delivers his work. And he's just really great architecture photographer. And I definitely just learned a lot in that genre of photography. And I kind of shoot everything. And so it's been great to kind of take that knowledge into other genres of photography. Um, and also I assist for him on shoots sometimes, and he also has recommended me for jobs. He's just sent a lot of great clients my way. Well, in fact, like some of my favorite projects I've done are because he sent sent them my way. So I got to shoot an editorial on the Lower Greenville area of Dallas, and what I would love to do is more of that kind of thing, like travel editorial stuff. And I got to work with them again, this magazine, Arkansas Life, and I shot an editorial in New Orleans for them as well. And so those are both just awesome experiences.
That's
And
rad.
yeah, it's like you just never know what can come from
Yeah.
the
I don't
connections you have.
imagine, have you, so my like getting into, when I first started freelancing, my first like year or two, a lot of the clients that I got were similar positions, were the people that I had been hired to do some work for, like other like members of Weld would pass clients information off to me for jobs that they couldn't or wouldn't take for whatever reason. And then from there, I would do work for those people, and then at some point, some of those clients would start referring me to other clients, and it would kind of like start to spread out from there, is where it kind of like grows and branches out. Have you started seeing any of that happening yet with
Yeah,
yours?
I think so. Yeah. I'll
You already
just
mentioned that you've had some repeat business, which
right,
is great,
right,
which is what we all kind of really hope for with great clients.
right.
And I think it's interesting you mentioned with Wade and his process, and something I've been learning more about being process driven and trying to really kind of develop my own processes, and especially because like I want to be able to hire on an assistant or something like that, somebody to kind of help with those day-to-day tasks, kind of like Wade's done with you. Uh, but if you don't have those processes in place, it's really hard to be able to communicate that stuff as far as like what you need to be done, and have it in a way where if it's not a process driven, then I feel like it's something that's like in your head, and you're making decisions based on a formula or something you like, this process you run subconsciously in your head. But once you actually like get it out on paper and are able to like communicate it to somebody else, it really helps kind of flesh that out, and for you to be able to like consistently repeat that process in a professional way.
Right.
What are some of the, having, because I didn't get to start out that way. I kind of, so all the processes that I've developed mostly have been out of trial and error, and kind of seeing areas where I fall short and going, okay, how can I do this thing better, be more consistent in this area, and it ends up being like process driven. What being under Wade and then kind of implementing some of those processes in yours. What are those processes that you do? And kind of why did you choose to implement them the way you have?
Um, so a big thing was for me was invoicing. Um, I just kind of had like a document I would just plug numbers into, and just had this folder on my desktop of all my invoices. And he uses Blink Sale. Shout out to Blink Sale.
I also use
Um,
Blink Sale. Shout out to Blink Sale.
yeah. Um, and it's just really easy to use and organized way of not only invoicing but also sending estimates. There's a lot of invoicing software out there, but it's hard to find ones that do estimates as well. And it's just really easy to make an estimate, and if it's approved, convert it to an invoice. And it's just great to have all of your invoices in one place, and you can also see, how many invoices for specific clients you've sent out, and which ones are open, which ones need to be paid. It will remind you if an invoice is late. It just has kind of everything you need, and yeah, I just got to learn how to use that from Wade, and he has some really great kind of terms and conditions in the like notes on there that I've kind of just copy and pasted from him. Just important kind of legal jargon that none of us like to figure out what we should say, but it's kind of all there. So kind of stole that from him, and he, said I could, of course, but
Wade's a nice guy like that.
yes, yes. So, yeah, that's like a big one. I still kind of struggle on the social media thing, but I have this process that I think I might try to kind of adopt. So, yeah.
That's cool. Uh, what are some things that you feel like are really important that you, I don't know, that you feel like you've learned so far? Because I know you're still only the first couple of years in, and so um, it's interesting to talk to people. Like I've talked to like Courtney. I had Courtney on, and she's been doing the freelance stuff for like 10 or 12 years, which I didn't realize at the time. That's like more than twice as long as I've been at it, and I'm like, man, I feel like I know something. Like she really has experience, and so it's interesting to talk to people that are kind of like at different points um, in that process. Uh, what are I don't know. What do you think is like the most important stuff that you've come across, or like I don't know. What are some of those hurdles?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of important things that I've learned that I would, want to tell someone who's trying to get into it. Um, I think something I was thinking about this morning was just how Instagram has kind of changed the game, and um, just how you should never compare yourself to others, because there's always going to be someone that's, doing better than you are, and there's always going to be people who aren't where you're at, and you just have to accept where you are, and do your best to be present and to work on you and where you're at. Of course, it's good to have goals and to look to the future and to find inspiration, and but don't be afraid to unfollow people who maybe are making you feel bad about where you're at, or making you just have unrealistic expectations. Because definitely just like a highlight reel on there of people's lives. And yeah, so I think, comparison is the thief of joy. And that's just super important, just to be okay with where you're at. Because everyone's journey is so, so different. And that's okay. And that's just how it is. In freelance, you just have to kind of be okay with that.
Yeah.
um, so that's a big one. Being humble also is important, and being a nice person. Truly, I think that's how I've gotten most of my gigs, because I'm a nice person, and I try to just be humble and always learn and and know that I don't know everything, and I never will. It's just a constant learning process. And so those are some big ones.
What dang it, I had a question that I was going to ask you and it just left my brain. Hang on. We'll get it back. Instagram. Oh, yeah. Okay. So is there anything that you've spent time on or things that you've tried that you look back and you go like, that wasn't the best use of my time. Like for instance, like there's so many different avenues of marketing and so many, like in the world we're in, it's really easy to have decision paralysis and to spread yourself way too thin and not, instead of focusing on the things that are actually moving the needle, or however you want to put it. What has there been anything like that you've done and then look back and go like, that wasn't like the best use of my time?
I think something I do, I'm a little too perfectionistic with my editing. I spend too much time on it, and probably give my clients too many photos. And so that's something that I just personally need to work on, and I feel like I'm getting better at it, but yeah, just being okay with this is a great image, and I don't need to spend 15 minutes on every image if it's exposed correctly and just edited well. That's a big thing, just in sending them off to the client, knowing that I did my best, and that they're great, and if they like my work, they'll like what I'm going to give them. Just kind of having confidence in myself, in that is a big one.
Yeah, I can resonate with you really a lot, especially as far as the stuff that you were talking about, like not comparing yourself to other people, because I've had a really hard time in the last like couple of years, and a lot of it has come because of that, and a lot of it's subconscious too. Uh, Whenever I feel like I'm not happy because I'm not to this like level or this place that I want to be at, but when I ask myself, well, what would make me happy or what is that point? I don't really like have an answer. It's just this like arbitrary like thing that like, oh, I'm just not there. So where I'm at, I'm not happy.
Mm-hmm.
But then also I go, but okay, where am I compared to like, if I look at like compared to where I used to be versus like where somebody else is or what somebody else is doing, I go like, holy shit, I've come a long way. And I'm doing the things that I've always said that I wanted to do. And like I get to make a living doing this kind of stuff, and so being able to reframe that way, it has been really helpful, and especially if you're talking about like being confident in your work, and if somebody hires you, they're hiring you based off of who you are as a person, like as a relationship, and like how you treat people is huge, but also the work that you've done before, and so like as long as you can just be yourself and do the same quality, the same kind of work you've done before, then why would they have a problem with? But I think because so much of it, so many times creatives it becomes like this art form and like you want it to be perfect and all of this stuff, uh, it kind of clouds your vision and gets in the way versus going, no, I'm providing a product, I'm providing a service.
Work is work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, and I think it's important also off that to communicate very clearly up front with your client and get their expectations, what they want out of the project, whether it's a shot list or some inspiration images that they like. I think that's super important, because if you know what they want and you know that you've delivered what they want, then you don't have to worry.
Yeah. Do you what do you do as far as like contracts or agreements or anything like that?
So something that I learned from Wade actually is when I send estimates, in the notes, there's basically all the terms and conditions there. So if you approve an estimate, you're agreeing to those terms. So it's kind of easy, it's just one and done.
That way you're not having to send a separated and like have them sign and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe, should be a physically signed thing that's a little more official, but I haven't had any huge, big, expensive projects yet. So, yeah, I can't speak to those kind of things covering yourself. With weddings, I definitely have like a written contract that's very specific, and just making sure I'm all good there. That I think I got from other people, just kind of bits and pieces I kind of gleaned from other people's contracts. So
And I think sometimes there can be a weird perception of people that will like take information from other people's contracts or other things like that, and have like a weird feeling about it. But really, I think it's smart because a lot of these people that are doing this have these things in their contracts because of experience and stuff that they're having to do to cover their ass or to make sure that everybody is on the same page and there's like solid communication and while it's definitely a good idea to make sure that you understand everything that you're putting in your contracts, I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily to take bits and pieces or entire contracts from other people so long as it is like accurate to what you're doing.
yeah, for sure.
Because once again, you're a business providing a service. While all of us like to think we're doing special stuff, and we are on some level at the same time, like there's tons of other photographers out there and other people that could do the same thing. So
Right.
Don't hype it up too much. I don't know.
Yeah.
What else? Is there anything else you want to talk about? You feel like that I haven't asked you about, or any cool projects or anything you're working on that you're specifically excited about?
Right now, no. Yeah, just got back from vacation. I don't usually look this tan. So I'm kind of resetting, getting back into it. Yeah, something I was going to say earlier about being okay with where you're at, like, and thinking about how far you've come personally. I think it's a great idea, like every year or so, to kind of just look back on everything you've done, and even look back on your work just from a year ago, and you can see how much you've improved, and all the things that you've learned along the way that have contributed to making your work, what it is now. I think that's super important. Just to always be on a positive trajectory, and always just be aware of the growth that's happening, that maybe you can't see day to day or week to week, but month to month or year to year, you can be like, wow, like I've done a lot. Like, I'm gonna treat myself, and like
Yeah.
yeah, just celebrating. Unless you're a lazy bum and you haven't done a lot in a year. Yeah, just like
Provided you're doing stuff
right. I know. I'm
that you have
assuming
things to look back on.
talking to self-motivated, hardworking people here.
If not, you can look back on all the things you didn't do and go like, maybe I should do things now.
Yep, exactly.
Do you ever with the job that you get, is it ever stuff where you're out, it's like you're approaching other people or other companies, or is it always inbound work or referrals?
So that's something actually that I have yet to do any marketing. All my work has been word of mouth so far, which is awesome, but it's also, um, I would say, something I've started to think about recently is, if I want to get the types of jobs that I really love, I need to go after them, because I can't just assume they'll all just come to me. I'm super thankful just for all the referrals, and yeah, all the repeat clients and stuff. But a lot of them, it's just work, and it's not, super creative or fulfilling. It's just, making a paycheck, and it's great. And I do enjoy it, but I do want to start maybe trying to think about how to, yeah, really get those types of jobs that I want.
What
So,
what are some, like, if you were able to pick what the kind of jobs you would be doing, what would those things be?
yeah, I'd love to do more editorials on like places to visit. I love traveling, and it's just shaped me and who I am so much. And that's something that I just want to keep doing, and to just show how important it is, and just kind of create work that makes people want to go places. And so, yeah, I'd love to get into travel magazine kind of stuff still. Those couple editorials I told you about that I shot were kind of a glimpse of that, and it was just, they're some of the most fulfilling projects I've done. So it can be scary for sure.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm kind of figuring out, like, just as a female traveling alone with a big ass camera, like, being safe and being wise about it. But it's definitely something I want to explore more.
That's interesting because it's not being a guy, like, and I feel like I at least can look somewhat intimidating. Like, that's never really something that crosses my mind, and so it's interesting to have somebody that, like, that is real, a very real thing. So definitely something to take into consideration, maybe depending on who you are and if you're traveling.
Yeah. Do some self-defense classes,
Yeah.
If you're going to do that. I need to do that. I'm talking to myself here.
Elisa, take some self-defensive classes.
Yeah.
Do some stuff. Step your game up.
If I have equipment insurance, my camera weighs like 10 pounds, so I can just use that as a weapon, but that's not ideal.
I wouldn't want to get hit by a camera. I don't think that would feel very good.
No.
You mentioned insurance. Do you have insurance on your stuff?
No.
No?
I need to.
Yeah.
It's on my to-do list. And I know it can be really cheap too.
Yeah, so I've been going through a company, PPA, Professional Photographers of America, for several years. And I think a membership, it's just part of what's included in the membership. It's like $35 a month, I think, if I remember correctly. I don't remember the details of what all that it covers, because it's been a while since I've looked at it. I should probably look back into that stuff myself, but I know that it's something that, at least for where I'm at, is enough coverage. And thankfully, I've never needed to use anything like that. But it is definitely worth, even though it's an extra, like, added expense. Whenever you've got gear and it's part of your livelihood, your business, it's good to be able to protect. It's a smart thing to protect your assets from anything happening.
Yeah.
Unless you're just bankrolling and you got money in the bank to buy new shit if it breaks, which I don't. All right, Elisa. Well, in the last 20 or 30 seconds, what are the top things you think people should take away from this?
Don't want to be repetitive, but I'm going to be.
Do it.
Just be confident in where you're at, and know that you're on your own journey, and that's okay, and that's awesome, and that your story and the path that you've chosen is unique, and someone else can learn from it. I never thought I would be on a podcast talking about this, but here I am. It's the greatest thing in my career, maybe even my life thus far.
Hey,
No.
Take it.
That was a lie, but this is awesome and exciting. Be confident in where you are. Always keep learning, and be humble, and be a nice person.
Yeah, there you have it. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. Freelance Friday is a Vacasey production. Vacasey is a full-service video production company based in Dallas, Texas. Vacasey, big video production value, freelance agility and scale.